What's going on, everyone? This is where Dynasty content lives. Let's get to it. All right, welcome into today's video. We are going to be going back in time to do a 2025 rookie mock draft with the information that we know now. How much would the situations change? How much would our rankings change? What would we be thinking about as we go into this draft if we had hindsight is 2020, right? This is a useful exercise to be able to do, though, as we go just 1 year removed, because you don't want to drastically shift things so much. But yet at the same time, you have to take into account what we saw from these players in the NFL, right? As we're doing rookie drafts, we're saying, okay, how are these players going to transition from the college game into the NFL? How are they going to adjust to the NFL speed? It's all projection. Now we have the information of how they looked. We have information as to what their situations were, what their situations are going to be. There's so much to unpack here. This was actually a much more difficult exercise than what I expected it was going to be. So tune in here, buckle up. This is going to be fun. Before we get into it, make sure you do a couple things for me. Hit the like button on this video. Helps out in a massive way. Love the support. Love seeing that so much for the first video that went out on the new YouTube channel here. So thank you. And then hit the subscribe button there and click that bell to get notified for when new content drops. Going to be coming out here with a ton more for you guys in the off season. So make sure that you stay tuned and stay up to date with all of that. What I'm going to do here is really just take a look at, I'll go with the top 12. Let's see if I feel like going a little bit further with the rankings for what they were at this time in September, because I think that's going to be a very useful part of this exercise, is to be able to stop and look back to what actually were the consensus opinions on these players in September. Now, the majority of us are doing our rookie mock drafts in May, right after the NFL draft, whatever the case may be. But there's still a lot of information that came out in that July, August, and September time period. So we're going to look at what those rankings were in September, just to kind of refresh our memory. This is coming from Fantasy Pros' ECR Expert Consensus Ranking for the rookie rankings. And so what we'll do here is we'll start with the top 12 in Superflex formats. Ashton Jeanty, Cam Ward, Tetairoa McMillan, Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, Jaxson Dart at 6, then Emeka Egbuka at 7, Tyler Warren, Caleb Johnson at 9, Colston Loveland, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, RJ Harvey at 13. We will go a little bit further. Trey Harris at 14, Jaden Higgins at 15. Then the rest of the rankings kind of unfold from there. We'll walk through it as we go. Important to note, I did do this exercise before. I'm not going to be on the fly sort of going through and doing this mock draft because I didn't want to miss something major, right? And so I went through, did this exercise before, and I'm very, very thankful that I did, because there is a very key name that is not in the top 12 of the rankings here, or top 15 of the rankings that was in September. So that we need to talk about. I'll include him here. We'll find out in just a little bit. Let's go to the 101. Again, in Superflex format, I think this obviously very clearly has to be Jaxson Dart, quarterback for the New York Giants. Here at the 101, we saw very, very good flashes here from him. And I'm not going to go super in-depth with stats into this in this episode. So this is going to be more narrative-driven. We're just going to take like a kind of a macro view of these guys. But stay tuned. We will do some episodes where we're going deep dive. But Jaxson Dart, knowing what we know now, knowing that John Harbaugh is going to be the head coach of the New York Giants, bringing stability to this organization that really hasn't been there over the past several years. Now they've got the quarterback in hand. You've got Malik Neighbors, who, yes, we have a bunch of injury concerns that we have to worry about, but you've got Cam Scatterbo, you've got a defense that is showing signs of life, and I think with Harbaugh, it's just going to provide a ton of stability. This is a coach who knows how to win, and so I'm really excited for this hire, for Jaxson Dart and what it means for him. The big concern here with putting Jaxson Dart over Cam Ward in hindsight rookie mock draft, right, is the concussions. He's got to learn how to take care of himself. This was the Jaden Daniels narrative coming out of LSU, was you saw Jaden Daniels take some absolute car crashes. And so for Jaxson Dart, he's not afraid to stick his nose in there and try to get the extra yards. But yet, how many times did we see this past year Jaxson Dart has left the game to be evaluated for a concussion? So he's got to learn that, and I think Harbaugh will drill that into him here this year. And moving forward, that will be the one thing that will prevent Dart from moving up into the top 8 of my Dynasty quarterback rankings, is does he learn how to take care of himself? That's going to be the massive thing that I circle and look at for Dart going into 2026 and beyond. but absolutely worth the 101 here, pick here in hindsight. Now we go to 102. I will go with Cam Ward, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. A very horrific year for Cam Ward, and that's certainly understandable when you look at the situation. We talked about that going into the year. That was sort of the narrative going around him, was that this situation in Tennessee is certainly not going to be great. Who's he going to throw to? You did have A.O. Maynor coming in there, but really, what's this situation going to be? Who's he going to lean on? Was the coach going to be there much longer than halfway through the year? Turns out that wasn't the case. So really just a horrific situation all the way around. At the time of recording, we do not know who the head coach of the Tennessee Titans is going to be in 2026 and beyond. So it is just kind of worth shedding light here, though, that Titans Cam Ward ended his rookie year with a negative 143.2 pass EPA, expected points added. The only quarterbacks with a lower pass EPA since 2018 were Bryce Young in 2023, Sam Howell in 2023, and Josh Rosen in 2018. Not great company to be a part of there if you are Cam Ward. So if I have Ward in a Dynasty league, in a Superflex format, and I am looking to him as a stalwart on my fantasy roster, someone that I'm building around, I'm really not in that camp. But based on how these other quarterbacks looked and the upside that Ward still presents, we can't ignore the context of what he was in this year. I'm still willing to take Ward here at the 102, especially if I am in need of a quarterback. I can't put him above Jaxson Dart. I can put him above Tyler Shuck, but Cam Ward here at the 102. At the 103, I will still go with Ashton Jeanty, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Jeanty a little bit further down. We had him at number 1 in the preseason rankings. Now he's here at number 3. And this is purely due to the situation. This is purely due to what was surrounding him here this past year. This offensive line in Las Vegas was absolutely terrible and really did not allow Jeanty to be able to show off what he can do. But yet, throughout all of that, we still saw the top-tier talent shine through for Jeanty, and we still saw him deliver some solid fantasy performances. Did he live up to the expectations? Did he live up to the preseason hype, especially in redraft leagues? No. But from a Dynasty standpoint, where I'm looking in that 2 to 3 year window, you take into account the draft pedigree for Ashton Jeanty, the situation most likely going to improve very, very quickly with Fernando Mendoza projected to be the number 1 overall pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. There's certainly enough there for me to be very excited about spending a top 3 pick on Ashton Jeanty still. So Jeanty here at the 103. At the 104, Tetairoa McMillan will be my pick here. Finished as a top 15 wide receiver for fantasy purposes this year. Now moves a little bit further down the board to wide receiver 22 from a points per game perspective, but still saw some very, very good things here from McMillan in an offense that I do think is still ascending. Now you do have question marks about, is Bryce Young the quarterback in 2027? That remains to be seen. But the talent level of what we expected for McMillan coming out of college, that was the case here this year. We did see that on display. And so the consistency, maybe not there. You still want to see some of that consistency iron out as we move forward, but this is still a rookie wide receiver. And so if we could go back in time, I would draft Tetairoa McMillan here at the 104. This is where things got really, really interesting for me, was you do have options like at the running back position. We didn't see a ton from Marion Hampton this year. Travion Henderson was sharing that backfield with Ramondre Stevenson and seemed to be out of favor with the coaching staff for the first part of the year. And then you can go to some of the wide receivers. Do we take some of those wide receivers here at the 105? Do we put Tyler Shuck as a quarterback in a Superflex format based on what we saw at the end of the year into that top 5? But I think if we are going to put Colston Loveland into the top 3 of Dynasty tight end rankings, then Loveland needs to be here as a 105 pick. If you could say that I'm going to spend a 105 selection in my rookie draft, and I'm going to get a top 3 Dynasty tight end who's 21 years old, 20 years old, you would do that every time. And Loveland really came on here in the NFL playoffs, and especially at the end of the regular season into the NFL playoffs, and showed that he can be a top-tier contributor here, even at a very early age, proving that he is Caleb Williams' favorite target here in this offense. I think going into next year, a full offseason for this group to really gel. Do we see DJ Moore traded away? Does that open up some targets here for Colston Loveland again? I think we're going to see Loveland just take another step in this offense next year. So really, I'm fully confident in spending a 105 selection here on a tight end above some fantastic running back prospects, above some quarterbacks here, because Loveland is going to be a difference maker at the position for fantasy football. I'll take him here at the 105. Then I'll go to Omarion Hampton, running back for the Los Angeles Chargers. Didn't get to see a ton from him this year due to that injury. but did see some solid fantasy performances when he was healthy. The issue was the offensive line was just atrocious, was just abysmal, with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt going down. Greg Roman gets fired. And so we're going to see a new offensive mind here. Some of the names that are being thrown around for the offensive coordinator position here in Los Angeles. Brian Daboll. Can you give me Brian Daboll with Justin Herbert and this offense? And that, I think, could unlock everything. Like Ladd McConkey, talked about him in the last video. Like, I would absolutely go by Ladd McConkey everywhere due to this offense taking a massive step forward. The Greg Roman and Justin Herbert pairing from the beginning really did not make a ton of sense to me. So Amarian Hampton here, though, kind of just gets an asterisk for me from last year. Maybe a couple spots down in the rankings from where he was last year, but still absolutely worth spending a top tier pick because of his draft pedigree, what we thought coming out. And then we saw it on a couple of instances this past season, delivering some solid fantasy performances, even in a very, very difficult situation there in Los Angeles. So Amarian Hampton, 106, absolutely worth that. Then we go to the running back position again. We'll go 107 here. We'll go Travion Henderson, and this is really an upside pick. Ramondre Stevenson, does he remain with the team in 2026 and beyond? That remains to be seen. Travion Henderson, though, when he does get the ball out in space, there are a few running backs in the NFL who kind of fit into that classification, right? Of DeAndre Swift, Jahmyr Gibbs, get them out into space, and they are absolutely lethal. Gibbs is on a different level than DeAndre Swift, but DeAndre Swift, you ask him to operate in between the tackles, that's just not his game. That's just not where he's going to thrive. And I think that's kind of the case for Travion Henderson here. Get him out as a receiver, get him out to the perimeter, get him out to the edge of the offensive line, get him into space, and let him just absolutely create mismatches in the open field. That's where you need to be utilizing him. If you are trying to ask him to be a 15 touch per game, operate primarily in between the tackles, and break off a couple of long runs, he can do it, but that's not going to really fit his skill set. So that comes with limitations from a fantasy standpoint. He's not going to be a very, very high touch guy. I could always see Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels bringing in, even if it isn't Ramondre Stevenson, bringing in another running back to complement that. Kind of like what Detroit has done with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's the blueprint that they're trying to follow, but that's still worth the 107 pick here for me. I'll go Travion Henderson, running back for the New England Patriots. Then at the 108, we'll go Tyler Shuck, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Got the opportunity as we moved along in the year, and then didn't really make much of an impact throughout the first part of the year. But then you look at the final 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and Tyler Shuck was actually really good for fantasy purposes. And so that gives me optimism moving forward, because I think paired with Kellen Moore, we have the offense for him to be able to grasp that at his age coming into the NFL. This is not a situation where it's a 20-year-old super raw quarterback that has all the athletic traits and is really trying to grasp everything. No, this is a veteran rookie who's coming in, who is able to have a greater understanding of the concepts of football and concepts of a scheme, able to latch onto that very quickly, and then has the ability to just distribute and get his playmakers into space and allow them to create. So guys like Chris Olave, but I think the conversation then becomes for Shuck, like, do they build around him even more this offseason? Do they go get another playmaker opposite of Chris Olave? Because they certainly need that. Do they upgrade at the running back position? Was that the final year that we saw Alvin Kamara in New Orleans? I still have questions about Shuck's upside. I don't think that he's ever going to be in the top 12 conversation from a fantasy football quarterback week in and week out. But as a quarterback 2 for your dynasty roster, if you can get him as a quarterback 3, then I think you're in a really good spot, because we do know that he's going to be given the reins to this starting job for the long haul. As long as he proves that he can at least distribute and master the offense underneath Kellen Moore, he's certainly going to be given the opportunity to continue to start. You do have to bump him down a little bit from a dynasty standpoint because of his age, but at the same time, that's right in range here with the 108. That's where I felt comfortable taking him off the board here. All right, this video is already going a lot longer than I thought it would be, so let's go ahead and speed things up here. At the 109, we'll go Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really liked what I saw from Egbuka. Talked about him in my Dynasty Wide Receivers to Buy episode, so please go check that one out. But really liked what I saw throughout the first part of the year. Then we have that hamstring injury in week 6, and we saw him take a step back. We saw a massive step back for Baker Mayfield. At that point, now the offensive coordinator's out in Tampa Bay. Who do they bring in here to complement and really kind of man this? Mike Evans, is he back with the team in 2026? I think if he doesn't retire, I think he will be back, but in what capacity? On a 1-year deal, really as kind of a we're going to bring him in for limited snaps because Egbuka is the future at the position. There's a lot that remains to be seen there. So Egbuka here, though, at the 109, still in that top 15 conversation for me from a dynasty wide receiver standpoint. If that is the case, then at the 109, you're actually kind of getting a discount here and a bit of a steal. So I'll go Egbuka at the 109. At the 110, I'll go Tyler Warren, tight end for the Indianapolis Colts here. We saw really good things from him at the beginning part of the season. That was the conversation was, is it Tyler Warren over Colston Loveland? And everyone at that point was like, yes, it's Tyler Warren in Dynasty. That's who you need to be going with. And then we saw things shift. As Daniel Jones gets injured, we see the Indianapolis Colts offense just completely sputter and fall apart with Phillip Rivers, which is to be expected. He's 44 years old. And then we saw Colston Loveland really ascend. So because of that, you're seeing some of the positional value and positional lack of scarcity, really, the surplus, pushing Warren a little bit further down the board here to the 110, where I think there are going to be players, if we did go back and do an actual draft, then I think some people would say, well, I don't want to spend the 107 on Tyler Warren when I can wait to the 203 and I can get Harold Fannin Jr. I can wait till this late second round and I can get Oronde Gadsden. Like, there's a few things there to be in conversation because of how deep this tight end rookie class was. So Tyler Warren here, absolutely, I think is still a very, very solid dynasty tight end in that top 5 conversation moving forward. We saw really good things from him when the offense is healthy and when he has a quarterback that can throw him the ball further than 3 yards down the field. So I think there's definitely reasons to be optimistic here for Tyler Warren moving forward. Finishes out the first round there. It was really tough for me to decide, do I go Tyler Warren at the 110 or do I go with the wide receiver here, Luther Burden, for the Chicago Bears? I do have questions about Rome Odunze and his fit with Caleb Williams. I don't know what happened this past year, but Rome Odunze really took a massive step backwards, from a receiving ability standpoint. Like, you look back now and you're like, was Rome Odunze worth the number 10 overall pick in the NFL draft? And everyone would be like, no, he was not. But Luther Burden, looking at what he did, where he went in the NFL draft, is looking like an absolute steal. And so if you got Luther Burden in the mid second round, early second round last year, in 12-team formats, like, you are sitting very pretty with that. He's wide receiver 19 in my latest Dynasty wide receiver rankings. Very, very excited for Luther Burden moving forward because I think it's going to be the Colston Loveland in Luther Burden show in Chicago as the offense next year. Another year for Caleb Williams in the NFL. Things continue to slow down for him. Ben Johnson learning from his mistakes this past year as we move forward. Like, there's just a lot of reasons to be optimistic. So if I'm at the 201 in a 10-team league and I get Luther Burden, I'm extremely, extremely happy about that. At the 202, Quinshon Judkins. This was the player that I hinted at earlier, where when I went through that top 15, Judkins was not in that. Remember the jokes that were like, Judkins is going to lead Ohio State out on the field for their first game because of all that ambiguity that was surrounding him at the beginning of the year. And then now we get into the season and we see good things from Judkins. It's a terrible situation for the Cleveland offense, but yet we see some good things. And then he has the injury, thankfully, like, no ligament damage. So there is the expectation, based on latest reports, that Judkins will be fully ready to go for the start of the 2026 NFL season. I expect that to be the case if he did, not get any ligament damage. So no reason why we shouldn't be optimistic or hold that against him, for dynasty rankings. And if you're here at the 202, you get a starting running back that can handle a significant workload. Absolutely excited about that. But yet at the same time, we have to take into account that this offense is probably going to be absolutely terrible again this next year. I think Deshaun Watson is going to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns in 2026. I think it's going to be Jim Schwartz as the head coach because no one else will want this job because you're going to be a one-and-done coach. Terrible situation to be a part of, but you're still looking at a starting running back that you can get here in the early second round that does have premier talent. You're just going to have to survive another year of, poor offensive ecosystem. At the 203, RJ Harvey, running back for the Denver Broncos. I don't think he's ever going to be a workhorse back. I think you're always going to see someone like J.K. Dobbins and the ability to carry the ball 15 plus times in this offense. I think you're going to see Sean Payton utilize Harvey more as the Darren Sproles type guy that, change of pace, that can really get him out into space. I talked about it earlier with Travion Henderson, but that type of role, I think that's what RJ Harvey is best suited for in the NFL. Whether or not that is going to be how he's utilized, that remains to be seen, but I think that's the blueprint, and of course that just comes with limitations. So when you do have some of these other running backs that have higher upside from a touch standpoint, then Harvey gets bumped down the board just a little bit. Let's go back to the Cleveland Browns here at the 204. Let's go Harold Fannin Jr., tight end. A fantastic year for Fannin. This was an absolutely stellar rookie season in a terrible offense with a quarterback that really had a ton of questions and was not seeing the field very well. Harold Fannin Jr. was absolutely solid from a fantasy football perspective. And now you're telling me that I can get a tight end 1 in Dynasty here at the 204. I mean, that's part of the conversation that you would have to weigh out if you're going back in time and redoing this mock draft is if I can get Colson Loveland at the 105, or I can wait to the 110 and get Tyler Warren, or I can wait to the 204 and get Harold Fannin Jr. Like, it's just a value conversation and value game there. But Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be a guy that I'm very, very excited for next year, no matter if it is Deshaun Watson or someone else at quarterback, just because the talent level did shine through there. At the 205, Matthew Golden, wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers. Of course, the running joke there is that he doesn't score a receiving touchdown all year, does so in the playoff game against the Chicago Bears. The big part here is that we're going to probably see Romeo Doubs be moved on here from the team, in the offseason from the team. And so that's going to open up really opportunities for Matthew Golden. Even though we didn't see stellar things here from him this year, we're going to see an opportunity given to him. Whether or not he takes advantage of it, that's the question. You do have to bump him down for where he was going in drafts last year as a back end of the first player, here to the mid-second round, because we didn't see him truly ascend and really take hold of that. But I do think that he's going to be given more of an opportunity, because for the Green Bay Packers, you have to give him that opportunity. You spent a first-round pick on him. You have to give him that opportunity. Then we go into a very interesting tier here at the running back position. There's several names here that really, you can shuffle these guys up and put them in any which order you really want. But I'm going to go with Woody Marks here at the 206. We saw really solid performances from him, even mixed in with Nick Chubb. And then you get into that wild card round playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we see him truly just dominate. And so it remains to be seen for me whether or not, and I think you can make this argument with any of the guys here in this tier, did they do enough in their rookie year to truly hold on to the job and be a 15-plus touch guy week in and week out next year and beyond? I just don't know if that's the case for Woody Marks at the 206, Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt for me at the 207, who certainly did not live up to hype, but yet did have a solid rookie season. And then Kyle Monangai at the 208. If you wanted to put Monangai at the 206, again, no arguments here from me. I wouldn't put him above RJ Harvey. There are some people that are saying that he should be in the late first round, conversation. I just don't think that's the case, because I don't think he's ever going to be the main guy in this backfield. They're always going to have a Jahmyr Gibbs type player alongside him, or they upgrade the running back position in free agency because of Monangai's lack of draft capital. Even though he delivered and was an incredible value for the team in his rookie year, that's still a 7th round player, kind of like Isaiah Pacheco, right? That Pacheco did great for his first 2 years. Does that make Monangai actually a sell at the running back position in Dynasty? We can have that conversation, but let me know in the comments where you would draft Kyle Monangai in your rookie drafts if you were drafting now. I'd really be interested to hear your thoughts there. Then Bashal Tutin at the 209. Did solid things. I think was a primary reason why they traded Tank Bigsby as early on as they did. And then we saw him get significant run. I just don't think that they're going to either let Travis Etienne completely walk in free agency, or they're not going to be a player to go into the free agent market and bring someone in. I don't think that Tutin's their main guy at the running back position in 2026 and beyond. So that puts him into a guy that can have some solid fantasy relevance here or there, a solid bench piece, but not someone that you can rely on from a dynasty standpoint. Again, let me know if you disagree. Jaden Higgins at the 210, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, really didn't make much of an impact here in his rookie year. Even when we saw Nico Collins go down, we didn't see Jaden Higgins truly ascend into that wide receiver 1 role. And then there's just now significant questions at the quarterback position. Is it CJ Stroud next year, or do they go, man, we cannot put CJ Stroud back there as the only quarterback. We got to go and get him some competition, because there's the potential that Stroud continues to regress from his rookie year. That's a real conversation. that could limit what Higgins is able to do from a fantasy standpoint if this offense really is not going to be what we saw a couple years ago and really deliver top-tier performances. So, but Jaden Higgins, I still believe in the talent. I still believe that he can be a very, very solid red zone threat, can be a guy who can reel in 7+ receiving touchdowns each year, but just not someone that I think should be much higher than this in the rookie redraft. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the entire third round up here so that way you can see this as we go along. I'm going to fly through this and the fourth round. We'll go Trey Harris, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. Didn't make much of an impact here, but again, we talked about the offensive ecosystem and some of the limitations for that. So, but I still think that the skill set lends itself to upside. So when we get into this third round territory from a Dynasty rookie draft, I'm absolutely willing to chase upside, and the size, speed, Trey Harris has that. Alec Ayomanor, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, did show some solid things here this past year in his rookie season, and really having to be the main guy for this offense. I think they're going to bring in significant competition this offseason. Where does that leave Ayomanor? With the new coaching staff, does he fall out of favor with that? Do they have plans for him? There's a ton of questions. We saw good things, but yet there's a ton of questions that pushes him down the board here. Oronde Gadsden, again, great rookie season for Gadsden, but it comes back to the value conversation. Where are you actually going to take Gadsden in your draft? Because he is a tight end, because you do have so many of these other options in a deep class. For me, that moved him a little bit further down the board. Ollie Gordon, running back for the Miami Dolphins, see him enter in and get more of an opportunity and workload in his rookie season than I thought he would, but yet didn't really do a ton to seize that in an offense that really, really struggled throughout the majority of the year. So we saw Jalen Wright start to take over at the end of the year and be that backup. Does the new coaching staff have a plan for Ollie Gordon? Again, more questions than answers here for him. Mason Taylor, tight end for the New York Jets. Get this guy a quarterback, and I think he can be really, really solid. I don't think that he should go above guys like Gadsden and Harold Fannin Jr. and some of these other tight ends, but yet can still be a player that's worth taking here in the middle of the third round because of what we saw, especially I think it was the first 2 weeks of the season. He had a really, really solid start and then really cratered as the offense really cratered. 306, it's a Superflex league. Let's take a chance here on Jalen Milroe due to the rushing upside, but really, I wasn't super impressed with his college tape coming out. So you're really just kind of taking a chance here that, hey, he's going to be a depth piece for me as a quarterback 4 on my Dynasty roster. If he does get a start, I'll play him because of his rushing upside, but really not holding out hope that he's anything more than that. Jalen Noel, wide receiver for the Houston Texans, as the Christian Kirk replacement in this offense, maybe this next season, maybe the year after. There's reasons to be optimistic for him, but really didn't see a ton from him here in his rookie season. Jack Besh, another player that has the pedigree and has the draft capital, should be someone that takes a step forward in this offense next year, but just the offensive ecosystem was horrific this year. You didn't really get to see a ton of opportunities. The 309, I think I'm going to have some pushback on this one, but Shedeur Sanders, I did not like Shedeur Sanders' tape coming out. I would have drafted him in that 4th round, 5th round of the NFL draft where he went. So when you do have someone that gets onto the field that I didn't have high hopes for and then puts up very, very poor statistics, and again, the offense ecosystem, the offensive line was terrible in Cleveland this year. Not a ton to be optimistic about, but yet if you're going to be someone that you have the starting job for next year, then you should have shown a little bit more than what Sanders did. So it's either going to be that they go back to Deshaun Watson plays the first 4 weeks of the season, and then they're like, we just can't do this. We have to officially bench him, and we go back to Shedeur, get the number 1 overall pick. But at that point, then Shedeur is done in 2027 and beyond. So really, he's not the long-term answer. And if that is the case, then you're drafting him here in the back end of the 3rd round. Dylan Sampson, good receiving back, has the juice when you get him out into space, but yet you have Quinshon Judkins above him on the depth chart. Worth taking here in the back end of the 3rd round. Jadon Blue, in the 4th round, I'll put the entire round up here as well. Jadon Blue, running back for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know if he gets the starting role or if he gets much of an opportunity moving forward, but you take a chance on a guy who has the athleticism that he does. Chimere Dike for the Tennessee Titans, great punt returner, great kick returner. I think has a future in the NFL to continue doing that. Does he carve out a significant role in offense if they're going to bring in competition at the position? I just don't see that to be the case, but I'll take a chance on the athleticism there. Kyle Williams, I did like his tape coming out at the 403 here. I think you have to probably have Stephon Diggs retire or be let go by the New England Patriots. Now, the off-field stuff, sure, that can happen, and Williams could be that eventual replacement. I think that's the role that they have envisioned for him, but until Diggs is out of the equation, I don't think you're going to see that. But it gives him time to learn, time to sit there and soak things up. Hopefully the good things and not the bad parts of Stephon Diggs. Pat Bryant at the 404, really, I think was going to be a key part of the game plan here for the Denver Broncos before he got injured in the divisional round, because we saw him start to be heavily targeted, and then he got injured and we didn't get to see a ton. So I think moving into next year, there's reasons to be hopeful, but yet we didn't see enough in his rookie year to really push him further up the board. Torrey Horton, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks here at the 405, really doesn't have much of a role as long as Rashid Shaheed is there. Now he's a pending free agent. Do they just move forward with Horton again next year in that type of role? Could be the case, but you can't really hold out hope for that. And then Brashard Smith, Isaac Tesla. I'll talk about them really quick. Brashard Smith, I think, can be a player that can have a nice role in this offense, because I think we're going to see a complete overhaul at the running back position in Kansas City with Isaiah Pacheco. Kareem Hunt, please stop bringing back Kareem Hunt year in and year out. So does Smith have a role next year? Could be the case. And then Isaac Tesla, phenomenal talent. I mean, can bring in some absolutely ridiculous highlight reel catches. Just will not see enough volume in this offense to really be much of a factor. Is really a red zone threat guy. Is going to be kind of like a second tight end from a fantasy standpoint in how we view those guys, of like, when you get into the red zone, they're going to be the guy that takes away the touchdown from the tight end that you really want the touchdowns to go to. I think that's going to be how Tesla is. And then Caleb Johnson at the 408. I talked about him there in the first part of this video at the number 9 overall selection in the rankings. And based on what we saw, I do not have any faith that that's going to turn around here anytime soon. Now you get a new coaching staff in who has no allegiance or ties to Caleb Johnson whatsoever. I don't think he's getting out of the doghouse with the new coaching staff. If he does, that would be an incredible, incredible shock to me. Then Jalen Royals and Quinn Ewers to wrap it up here. Quinn Ewers, you're just taking a shot on that maybe Miami doesn't upgrade at the quarterback position this offseason. They let Tua Tagovailoa go or trade him. And then Ewers, as they reset the roster, he's going to be the guy that they give some starts to here this year. That's really the hope there for Quinn Ewers at the quarterback position. Wrapping up this mock draft exercise. It's really helpful to be able to go through this and really kind of just put things into perspective of, okay, if I had the chance, where would I actually draft RJ Harvey? And then from a trade standpoint, that really kind of just puts it into perspective for you as you evaluate some of where these other players would go, who you would trade them for, what their value actually is. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for those who stuck around throughout the entire video. Appreciate you guys so much. Hit that like button on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to get notified for when new content drops. I'll be back again soon. Appreciate you guys.